It's Friday night, 1989. The sun is dipping below the horizon, painting the sky in bruises of purple and orange. You're comfortably, and let's be honest, probably a little dangerously crammed into the back of the family station wagon. Seatbelts? Those were strictly optional suggestions back then, buried somewhere deep beneath the seat cushions. You're sitting on cracked vinyl that's still warm from the day's sun. Your bare legs sticking to the seat, just vibrating with anticipation. You're watching the front door of the house like a hawk, waiting for your dad to finish that last bite of dinner. Finally, the screen door cracks open. He steps out, jingling the keys like a high priest approaching the altar, and climbs into his chariot. A blue, wood-paneled beauty that's seen better days, but to you, it feels like a rocket ship fueled on pure potential. Within moments, you're on the road. The windows are cranked down manually, the humid night air whipping your hair into a frenzy. Your dad is playing DJ up front, cranking the stereo until the speakers rattle the door frames and the dashboard hums. You're scanning the horizon, looking for that one specific landmark. And then, it happens. Your heart does a little jump as you see it. That glowing neon blue and yellow ticket stub flickering against the dark sky like a North Star for the bored and the restless. You've arrived. You and your friends don't even wait for the car to fully stop. You pile out, leaving your dad to find a parking spot. And you push through those heavy glass doors, and then the air hits you. It's a very specific scent, a fragrance they don't make anymore. It's a cocktail of industrial-strength carpet cleaner, the buttery ghost of stale popcorn from the machine in the corner, and that weirdly comforting chemical smell of warm plastic and magnetic tape. You take a deep breath. This isn't just a store. This is heaven. This is Bite-Sized Nostalgia. Today, we're checking out the history of the neighborhood video store. Before the algorithm lived in your pocket and decided what you should watch based on your data, we had to do the work. We had to drive, we had to brave the elements, and most importantly, we had to browse. We didn't have scrolling, we had walking. We had that tactile experience of thousands of plastic boxes stacked to the fluorescent lit ceiling. And back then, the stakes were high. You had to pray, and I mean pray, that the movie you'd be thinking about all week wasn't currently sitting in someone else's VCR 3 blocks away. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on the rise and eventual fall of the video store. We're going to talk about why the new release wall was the most high-stakes real estate of our lives, and how a thin piece of yellow plastic could make or break your entire weekend. For a Gen X kid, the new release wall wasn't just a shelf, it was our version of a red carpet. You'd walk in and head straight for the back wall, the one glowing under the extra bright lights. You'd see the rows of iconic cardboard sleeves, Die Hard, Beetlejuice, The Princess Bride. But the sleeve was just a tease. In the world of Blockbuster, the sleeve didn't matter. What mattered was the yellow tag. Remember that specific sensation? You'd reach your hand behind the cardboard cover, your fingers searching for that dark little cubby. You were hoping for the weight. You were looking for the clunk of that heavy plastic case. If your hand hit the back shelf and felt nothing but empty air, your heart sank. It was a physical blow. It meant that some other kid had beaten you to the last copy of The Lost Boys by 5 minutes. But if you felt that heavy plastic, it was like winning the lottery. You'd clutch that tape to your chest like a championship trophy, looking over your shoulder to make sure no one was going to snatch it. And you'd march to the counter with your head held high. You didn't just find a movie, you won the night. But the real magic, the real education, happened when the new releases were gone. When the big hits were sold out, that's when you wandered into the deep, dark aisles of action, horror, sci-fi sections. This was our film school. We didn't have Rotten Tomatoes, we didn't have IMDb or YouTube trailers. We had one thing, and one thing only, the cover art. We would spend 20 minutes, way past our dad's 10-minute limit, just staring at a VHS box. We were trying to decode if the movie was actually cool as airbrush painting on the front. Let's be honest, usually it wasn't. You'd rent a movie because the cover featured a giant cyborg with a laser eye, only to get home and realize the cyborg was in the movie for about 3 minutes and the rest was just people talking in a warehouse. But that didn't matter. The browse was our version of social media. You'd run into kids from your homeroom class in the horror aisle. You'd have heated debates over the merits of Schwarzenegger's Commando versus Stallone's Cobra. And when the pressure of the 10-minute clock finally hit zero, you'd usually give up and grab a comfort watch. The one copy of The Goonies or Back to the Future that you'd already seen 10 times, but you knew would never let you down. There was a certain set of unwritten rules in the video store era, a social contract we all signed the second we stepped onto that industrial blue carpet. For a kid, this was our first real brush with civic duty. First, there was the membership card. Remember that thin piece of laminated plastic? Getting your own, or even being trusted to hold your dad's, felt like a passport to adulthood. But that card came with a burden of proof. It came with the Be Kind, Rewind sticker. Now, on the surface, it was a polite request. But in 1989, in our world, that sticker carried the weight of the law. There was nothing, and I mean nothing, more soul-crushing than getting your movie home, killing the lights, opening the snacks, and popping that tape in, only to be met with the white noise of scrolling credits. It was the worst feeling in the world. You realized you were a victim of some rental outlaw. You'd have to sit there staring at a blank screen, listening to your VCR screech and groan as it manually dragged miles of magnetic tape back to the beginning. There's 3 minutes of pure, unadulterated resentment toward a stranger you'd never even met, but whose laziness had just stolen a piece of your Friday night. And let's not forget the late fees. That blue and yellow sign wasn't just a logo. It was a ticking clock that started the moment you left the building. We weren't just playing a game of pick a movie. We were playing a pressure-packed game of logistics. If you didn't have that tape back by midnight on Sunday, you weren't just a few cents short. You were looking at a debt that could wipe out your entire allowance. I remember the Dropbox Dash, that frantic 11:55 p.m. drive with your parents, where your dad would practically roll the car past the curb so you could leap out and shove the tape into the metal slot, like you were defusing a bomb. If you heard that clunk before the clock struck 12, you were safe. If not, you spent the whole next week wondering if that computer, the mysterious all-knowing Blockbuster mainframe, would flag your account and ban you from the new release wall forever. But before the blue and yellow took over the world, the video store was a local hero. Remember the mom and pop shops? The ones with names like Video Village or the Movie Hut. These places were different. They were smaller, usually tucked into a strip mall between a dry cleaner and a pizza joint. Sometimes they only had a single wall dedicated to movies, and the rest was just, well, stuff. They were a little dustier, the carpet was a little more worn, and they always had that mysterious beaded curtain section in the back. You know the one. It was the forbidden zone for us. We were strictly forbidden from entering, but that didn't stop us from trying to sneak a peek through the gaps as the beads clattered together. We didn't know what was back there, but in our minds, it was the most dangerous place on earth. But then, Blockbuster changed the game. They arrived like a corporate army. They brought the blindingly bright fluorescent lights, the matching polo shirts, the rows upon rows of identical copies, and the guaranteed in-stock promises. They turned movie night into a machine. They made it efficient, they made it clean, and for a while, they felt absolutely invincible. They dominated the landscape so completely that we couldn't imagine a world without them. We honestly thought those blue and yellow stores would be on our corners forever, a permanent monument to the weekend. We didn't realize that the very thing that made them great, the physical experience of we have to go there, was exactly what would eventually make them a ghost of the past. So, what finally killed the grand cathedral of the weekend? Common wisdom says it was Netflix or the rise of the internet. And sure, those were the tools. But the real killer? It was the loss of the experience. By the mid-2000s, our lives started moving faster, and the convenience of the red envelope in the mail and eventually the play button on the screen began to outweigh the joy of the drive. Suddenly, it felt like an inconvenience to spend 10 or 15 minutes driving to the local Blockbuster. We traded the walk through the aisles for the efficiency of the couch. We stopped being explorers and started being users. In 2013, the inevitable happened. Blockbuster announced it was closing its remaining corporate stores. One by one, the blue and yellow signs were taken down. The lights went out, the popcorn machines were unplugged and sold for parts. It was, officially and quietly, the end of an era. Today, only one last Blockbuster remains, standing like a lonely sentinel in Bend, Oregon. It's a living museum to a Friday night ritual that an entire generation shared. Everywhere else, the new release wall has been flattened into a digital grid, and that specific plastic and popcorn scent, it's just a ghost now, a memory that fades a little more with every year that passes. But maybe the reason we miss it so much isn't because we actually miss the $5 late fees or the grainy tracking lines on a worn-out VHS tape. We miss it because it was a destination. It was a place where we made active choices. It was a physical town square where we gathered with our families and friends to argue, to laugh, and negotiate over which world we wanted to live in for the next 2 hours. It was a shared mission. Today, your video store lives in your pocket. Within seconds, you can scroll through thousands of titles with a flick of your thumb. You have trailers, the Rotten Tomatoes scores, and the 4K resolution right there. It's easy, it's perfect. But there's something missing. Because when you fought for that last copy of The Lost Boys on a humid Friday night in 1987, and you felt that heavy plastic case in your hand and knew you'd beaten the crowd, that wasn't just a rental, that was a victory. And that victory made the movie taste just a little bit better. The shadows feel a little bit darker, and the memory lasts a whole lot longer. So tell me, what was the one movie you always look for but could never find on the shelf? Or better yet, tell me about your mom and pop video store, the one with the beaded curtain. Find me on social media at Bite Size Nostalgia, and let's talk about the stores that shaped our weekends. If you're enjoying these trips back in time, make sure you check out my books, including So You Think You Know the 80s, available now on Amazon. It's the perfect companion for your next movie night. Thanks for hanging out with me today, and I'll see you in the next one. Because for us, it was never just a time slot, it was a frequency.